It's been nearly a year since Elon Musk officially took over as the new head of Twitter after bidding $43 billion on the website and then trying and failing to back out of the deal. Since then, the social media platform, now known as X, has been inundated with conflict and controversy, from a spike in hate speech and disinformation to a series of policy changes, including a total overhaul of the verification process. So where does all of this leave the platform, once lauded as a tool of revolution and democracy? That's the subject of the new Frontline documentary, Elon Musk, Twitter Takeover.
For the past 6 months, we've been investigating Elon Musk's controversial purchase of Twitter, how it's expanded his influence into politics at a time of deep division across America.
Now we've got someone who's going to take over Twitter who actually believes in the Constitution and free speech.
And what it means for one of the world's most important platforms for news and political debate to be under the control of one man.
This is a human being that we're giving all of this power to, and there are very few checks on that power right now.
This is the story of Elon Musk's latest mission and its far-reaching consequences.
Well, the film's director is James Jacoby and joins me now. Hi, James. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
So this is such an interesting and timely documentary to come out right now in thinking about the nature, the culture of Twitter before and the culture of X now. Tell me about when you embarked on this journey to put this together.
We embarked on it about 6 months ago. And you know, we'd always wanted to do a film about Musk and kind of do a deep dive into who he is and what his background and his ventures are. And his purchase of Twitter really served as the perfect catalyst for us because it marked a change in him that is significant for all of us in some ways. He before, basically pre-pandemic, Musk was mostly involved in Tesla, SpaceX kind of hardware. And then he had this sort of political evolution through the pandemic and the 2020 election, in part in reaction to changes that had been happening to the political conversation in places like Twitter, and then sort of was activated enough to actually buy the platform. And so it was a really good reason for us to do a deep dive, not just into Musk, but also to the ways in which Twitter had been changing and the ways he was reacting to it and what ultimately led him to buy it.
In pulling together the folks you interviewed, and I know that there were dozens of folks, probably more, that you engaged in this, were you looking for a certain type of person, like, you know, someone who had been at Twitter before and after, someone who had left because of Musk?
Yes, absolutely. So you know, one thing that was really important to us was to understand the changes at Twitter that Musk was really responding to. He had been an avid tweeter for many, many years. He joined Twitter in 2010, 2011 or so, and you know, we have a spreadsheet of thousands and thousands of tweets that he's tweeted since then. And what was interesting was to kind of understand what it was that he found so problematic about the changes that Twitter had been making. So we wanted to understand, for instance, Twitter had been ramping up its content moderation policies during the pandemic, during the 2020 election, policies around misinformation and disinformation, whether it be about vaccines or about voting. And this rubbed him the wrong way, this sort of kind of putting the fingers on the scale and coming up with more rules in this kind of playground of Twitter. And for someone like Musk, he thought it was limiting of free speech. And he thought that there were pretty dire consequences to that in terms of the larger problems that he saw with free speech in America. And so that's really what motivated him to do it. So we did seek out former employees that were not just writing, but also implementing these policies at Twitter to try to understand where they were coming from and what, you know, their reaction to Musk's reaction was.
It seems like there are, in addition, obviously, to Elon Musk as a central character here, there were many, it seemed like there were other so-called characters, like, for instance, the misinformation that was happening on the internet writ large, you know, the conspiracy theorists that influence Musk or potentially influence Musk. You also had Donald Trump as a major character here. Yeah.
Yes, we do. I mean, that's the thing, is that while this is a portrait of Musk, it's also kind of a portrait of where we've come from over the past few years politically. Musk has affiliated, interestingly, with sort of a far right portion of America over the past few years. This wasn't his, he's never been never been a self-described conservative. He's really kind of was difficult for most of his career in life to pin down politically. But basically post-pandemic, and we trace this closely in the film, he has basically flirted with a lot of conspiratorial ideas, and not just flirted with them in some cases, actually posted them and promoted them and spread them. And so we do trace that, and it does speak to kind of a larger political strain in our country that we all know about, which is this sort of post-truth era. Mm-hmm. And so when he now is in control of one of the main information platforms and platforms for political debate in this country, that's the sort of evidence we wanted to put forth to everybody to understand where he's kind of coming from and how he's using the platform, both as a user and as an owner.
As folks watch this film, do you think that they'll see that the Musk we see in news headlines is the same Musk that you see in the CEO chair of Twitter, or the former CEO chair of Twitter, and beyond?
What's interesting is a number of the people that did go through the transition at Twitter after he bought it, we talked to former employees there that felt optimistic about Musk coming in and buying Twitter. It wasn't as if there was unanimous disagreement with his ideas or his practices. They thought maybe the guy on Twitter, the sort of public persona, may be different than somebody in reality. And what we heard over and over again is that it actually wasn't all that different, which I found rather surprising, because here's a person who has been extraordinarily successful and deserves a tremendous amount of credit for his accomplishments in electric vehicles, in space technology and satellite technology. So he clearly is a very serious person and has clearly managed incredible endeavors very well. But this has been different. And that was fascinating to me, to kind of tell this as a chapter of his story, as like his foray into media is very, very different than his successes in technology and, hard technology and hardware like rockets and cars.
Yeah, we have a soundbite from one of the employees describing how they were fired, and they were surprised as well. So let's take a listen to that.
I was having dinner with my family, and I'm on the East Coast, and my phone was just dinging during the dinner. I opened my computer, and when I logged in, I lost access. Like, everything shut off. The screen went gray at that moment, and I literally started crying in front of my kids.
It could have been handled a whole lot better, should have been handled a whole lot better, and with more humanity.
Going forward, I want to ask you, James, going forward, do you see, now that Twitter has a new sort of person in the leadership helm and things like that, do you see the sort of, I guess, wildness of the beginning of Elon Musk's takeover sort of ebbing into a more, calmer culture, or is this just the beginning?
It's a great question, and I wish I could tell you the future. I think that I'd like to give him the benefit of the doubt that he's got a steep learning curve here. This isn't rockets, this isn't vehicles, this is social media, which in and of itself is a hornet's nest when it comes to problems, and that running a company like this is very difficult, and making money as a company like this is very difficult. So I think it remains to be seen. I think that one of the things that is significant and that we do know is that we're having to take his word, and Linda Yaccarino, his new CEO, her word, for their claims that, for instance, hate speech is down on the platform, or their claims that their counterclaims to the idea that disinformation or misinformation is up on the platform. So Twitter used to be a very transparent company, and it is no longer transparent with data, actual data about what's going on its platform. And I think that that's where the devil in the details is, right? And so if he were to open up the company to more scrutiny and to more data and be more transparent, we'd have a better ability to judge what's really going on. But yeah, I think he wants this to succeed, and he's going to iterate and he's going to experiment, and we'll see where he ends up.
All right, that's for sure. James Jacoby, and the film is Elon Musk's Twitter takeover. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.